Good evening, friends. Stephen Benoon here with Israeli News Live, and there are a number of things we're going to be talking about this afternoon, going into the weather that actually covered the entire southeast United States there. We'll be looking at the different snowfalls. It definitely was a record-breaking snowfall all across the entire Gulf Coast. We'll be looking at Trump's new executive order. He has put United States Marines on our coast, or excuse me, our southern border there. We'll be looking at him releasing the Kennedy files, as well as some very other disturbing executive orders that are being done, saying goodbye to those, well, not just illegal immigrants, but even students that dare protest against the things that are going on in the Middle East. We'll take a look at what one Dr. Victoria Rose has to say about the situation in Gaza. And of course, she would be right along with Trump's executive order if she were here, a student in the United States there. Also, Rabbi Mitzrachi, some of his famous words just recently spoken about. And of course, AIPAC. They are the ones that helped bring about the 119th Congress. I'm Stephen Benoon, and you are watching Israeli News Live here on January the 24th, 2025. Let's get started here. As you guys know, I mentioned my son the other day, and I said he was behind the camera. Well, he finally got me a picture of him on the other side. I call him a history buff. He's actually a history teacher. So, all right, Dominic, you may have not have known at the time when I asked you this because you guys hadn't finished having your snowfalls yet. But yes, you do, guys. You had a record, all-time record snowfall. Milton, Florida, by the way, had 10 inches of snow, I was told. 9 inches in Pensacola, Florida. Louisiana, New Orleans, 10 to 12 inches of snow. I mean, that is like insane, right? Houston, 3 to 4 inches. Not that big of a deal. I don't know if that was a record for them or not, but 10.5 inches in Lafayette, Louisiana. Going up into Georgia, as much as 7 inch of snowfall there. Mobile, Alabama, 8.5 inches of snow. You know, and of course, the way the temperatures are, within a day or so, it was just about all completely gone there. Let's look at what the Miami News was saying about this snowfall.
Miami, a historic winter storm is heading east, blasting heavy snow and ice across the Gulf Coast, plunging millions of people into dangerous cold weather. And in just a few hours, people living in the Panhandle could see snow and ice. Governor Ron DeSantis issuing a state of emergency for this unprecedented.
This is where my son was looking at it, upwards to 3 to 5 inches. They had not fully gotten their snow as of yet there. And by the way, speaking of that snow, the one person that had gotten left out drove me nuts. So I kept trying to get a picture of her, my only granddaughter, Harper. Harper is seen right here out behind the house there, and I kept asking my daughter, where's my granddaughter's picture at in the snow here? So she is a sweetheart. She is almost like an identical twin to my sister. And thanks to my son-in-law, Kellen, at least I have a granddaughter. Otherwise, we won't go there. So I'll leave that one alone there. So anyway, let's take a little bit more. I'll fast forward into this video here a little bit about the snowfalls that were taking place. And the person there you're going to see there, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's New Orleans.
Louisiana. This is our Earth Cam showing us that folks out here, they're having snowball fights. You can see they're enjoying this winter wonderland, if you will. I mean, look at how the snow is blowing and how it's accumulating too, right? And we're not just talking flurries here. And the temperature right now is 27 degrees, and it feels like 14 degrees right now. Look at those gusts at 28 miles per hour. We're seeing our winter radar, and that snow is moving across parts of Houston, along portions of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and now beginning to push into parts of North Florida. Yeah, near Pensacola at this time. Winter weather alert stretching from southern Texas all the way.
That's just nuts, to say the least there. All right, moving on out past the snow and everything. President Trump already now in office, sworn in, and now he has the United States Marines coming in to assist the Border Patrol on beefing up the border along the U.S. borders there. We're talking about flights in. United States Marines, this is one of the ways they bring in their troops. Of course, it would help if I didn't have the volume so loud. They're going to deploy troops on the ground there to try to make the border more secure. That's after it's been wide open for the last 4 years. That's one thing I do applaud him. I applaud him on the fact that he has released the files on JFK. He has now requested that those files be released. Of course, they've had 4 years when he would not release them back in his presidency in the first term. They've had 4 years to be able to alter, manipulate, and everything else. So I'm a little bit concerned about that particular issue there. Then we have here, Rabbi Reichman says, President Trump just executed an executive order allowing the deportation of those non-citizens, including foreign students who have been supporting U.S.-designated terrorist organizations, Hamas and Hezbollah, on American soil. Well, for one, I don't think that the people are supporting Hamas, but what they are trying to do is show support and solidarity for the people of Gaza. Now, sadly, though, the way this kind of works, well, if Israel says you're Hamas, then they just go ahead and just believe it anyway. Because you care about the Palestinian people, they're going to make all that illegal. And believe me, it will come down to social media news and everything else eventually. This type of news will not be permitted to air. Listen to this doctor right here as she speaks about her opinion. Dr. Victoria Rose, a plastic surgeon who came in as a medic inside of Gaza, what she had to say about her time there.
To be a war on children is irrelevant. It is a war on children. I think they are definitely targeting medics.
Targeting?
Yeah, I think they are definitely targeting medics.
And if someone were to ask, well, what is your evidence in making a statement like that, what would you say?
If you don't die of a blast injury, you are going to die from exposure or malnutrition or infection.
This is Dr. Victoria Rose. She's a British plastic surgeon based here in London who's volunteered in Gaza to provide critical medical care to Palestinians amid Israel's war on the besieged enclave, a war that various rights groups have labeled a genocide. Today, we'll be speaking with Dr. Rose to delve into the realities of Gaza's health system amid Israeli attacks on its health sector and medical personnel. And we'll be asking what it really means to be a doctor and healthcare worker in Gaza today. Rose, where do we even start? You've been to Gaza twice in 2024, in March and then later in August. What's been going through your head since then?
Mainly when I'm going to go back again.
Wow. So I didn't expect that to be your answer.
It's quite difficult because a lot of we went before the war started, so I've always had people in Gaza that I knew and colleagues in Gaza that I knew. And when we went back in the March of 2024, so many people were surprised to see me and made an effort to come and see me when they knew that I was at the European Gaza Hospital. And it cements your relationship with people. And then obviously you're working in a very difficult set of circumstances. So you just...
I'll put the link to this video in the description below for you because I haven't even had the chance to watch the entire thing myself. But if you notice what she said at the beginning, it is a war on children. And that's really the devastating part to this there. I don't know where she really gets into this. Let me just look to see if we get anything here real quick. Got to deal with all the junk.
In COVID, and people had sort of camped outside those and all the way around the grounds that led to them. And then within the hospital, people were putting up tents in stairwells and in corridors. And some of the footage shows people coming out from behind blankets and carpets that they've hung up along the walls, and there'll be a family living behind a blanket or a sheet as you walk down the corridor. And it makes it quite difficult to get around and see patients, because obviously every time you leave the operating room to go and see a patient on a ward, you're inundated by local displaced people who are trying to find out whether you could see one of their relatives. Are you the right doctor? Could you see some maybe non-war injury problem?
They're seeking medical care
So
as
they're
well.
all seeking medical care as well. So the whole sort of situation is quite difficult to navigate because the mass of people. But by the time we went back in August, the IDF had declared that no internally displaced people could stay in the hospitals. And one of the rationale behind that was that if you needed to evacuate a hospital because conflict was getting close, it was very difficult to evacuate patients and all of the internally displaced people. So when I went to Nasser in August, there was nobody living in the hospital, and the place was quite derelict almost, but it made it a lot easier to see the structural damage to the hospital because you could see the buildings that had been destroyed, and you would walk through a corridor and it would end in rubble, and you would walk into the CT scanner and the roof had fallen in. You could really see the damage that had happened.
I mean, both hospitals.
That's terrible. Absolutely terrible. I'm sure you'd have to watch the entire video here to really get... Here we go right here. I actually found it where they say it. Let's listen in real quick.
Not there.
Dr. Rose, I'm going to read you a quote that you gave at a recent panel. I think it was the ICJP panel. Just want to get your thoughts. You said, "I'm sick of hearing about Hamas terrorists and Israel's right to defend itself. The bottom line is this. This is a human rights issue and children are being murdered. It's got to stop."
Yes, I still hold my belief in that. I think you have to start from 50% of the Palestinians in Gaza are under the age of 16. So if you're waging a war on terrorists, surely you've got to target them specifically, and that hasn't been happening. It's been a blanket bombing of a population, and I don't believe that this now is about Israel's security or getting rid of Hamas. This is purely the destruction of a population, and that is a human rights issue.
And when you hear statements like, "This is a war on children," would you tend to agree with it?
It can't be viewed as anything else because 50% of the population are children. So it is a war on children. Whether or not it is intended to be a war on children is irrelevant. It is a war on children.
Let's actually speak to that.
You have it right there. And I can't do anything but agree with what she says there. This is Rabbi Mizrahi. He is a New York rabbi. He is born in Israel. I want you to hear a little bit about what he is saying here in one of his Torah studies here.
This is the Jews, this is the Nazis. It's all prophecy here. You only have one blessing. Yitzchak said, "I made him your master. Whatever I will give you will be his. Better for you, you don't get a lot. Anyway will belong to him. Whatever you're gonna have, the Jews will always control you." Everywhere you go in the world, who's running all the financial? Always the Jews. Started in Paro, Yosef, everyone. The Jews are in charge of the world. Science, financial, politics, behind the presidents. Even now, everybody knows that all the campaign of Donald Trump is his son-in-law, the Jew, Kushner. I read it 3 different articles. He is the mastermind behind everything. He told him what to say, what not to say, how to react, things that he did in the end, that in the end worked out for him. And he's richer than him, don't get confused. He didn't marry him for his money. The family of his son-in-law are much wealthier than Donald Trump himself. Some people may think, oh, he married her because she, her father is the rich guy. No. They're very, very wealthy. They give loans of tens of millions of dollars to people for real estate. They're funders. They have a lot of money. Bli ayin hara. So, that's how Hashem made the world. Abarbanel, in his time in Spain, was running the show. Everywhere. the Jews always run the financial. Here in America, Bernanke, who was before Greenspan, the Jews runs the show everywhere. The treasury, the one in charge, what's his name? The one that was in charge now, is Mechutan, was davening with us in a minyan, in Mincha. Sar Haotzar, no, the treasury, also in charge of the money.
Don't even need to play anymore. I'll try to leave you a link for that as well, troubling as it may be. And of course, then we have right here, AIPAC Tracker. This is AIPAC's own Twitter account, right? During the 2024 elections, the Israel lobby poured at least $45.2 million into winning candidates for Congress, the most by any organization in history, according to the reporting from Sludge. 119th Congress, brought to you by AIPAC. It's just sickening. That's all I can tell you. It's just really sickening. A lot of other things Charles sent to me as well. I just didn't get everything up here for you. I wish I would have, but it is very, very troubling indeed on things that are going on. Anyway, I'm Steve Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Thank you for listening. And by the way, don't forget, support the broadcast, please. Your support, IsraeliNewsLive.org, is vitally, vitally important. You can just click right there online and donate online to support. Or you can go by mail to Noon Institute, P.O. Box 156 in Sunbright, Tennessee, 37872. This interview right here, though, with Dr. Liz, A Family's Search for Answers, that is an eye-opener. If you haven't already seen it, be sure to watch it. You can go to our website, IsraeliNewsLive.org, and see it right there, or on iConnect FX, Israeli News Live. I'm Steve Ben-Nun. Have a blessed day.